Maryland football can still make a bowl game.
You are Locked On Terps, your daily podcast on the Maryland Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, everyone? I'm Tre Moore, host of Locked On Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So thank you guys for making us part of your day. And today's episode is brought to you by the Gametime app. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. Maryland football can still absolutely make a bowl game, and I still think our goals for this year are out in front of us. I've been harsh on Maryland football over the last couple of days because I think we would all agree we're not getting the job done currently. We're not getting the job done. Things aren't going right. Things aren't going the right way, and there's a lot of things that need to be changed for Maryland football. And yesterday I said Mike Locksley hasn't got done. It might be time to fire Mike Locksley, and I'm still on that opinion. But if you looked at at least where I put the goals for Maryland football, and I just said make a bowl game this year. That was my one goal for Maryland football. That's the one thing that I wanted to do for Maryland football, and I think that was kind of the goal of the program. What a lot of the goals is what people had that had realistic goals for Maryland football. I think was to make a bowl game, and that's still very much a possibility so far this year for Maryland football. You still have all your goals out in front of you. You need 2 more wins to get to a bowl game, and you have a very, I don't want to say manageable schedule down the stretch. You play some of the better teams are going to play all season, but you play 2 opponents specifically that you're going to have every opportunity to beat to get those 2 more wins for Maryland football. And the schedule left, if you guys don't know, we play Indiana this weekend, obviously on November 1st. Everyone's excited about that. Number 2 team in the nation, which is kind of crazy to see Indiana with number 2 in the country as a football team. That's just where we are right now. It's a weird year in college football. All the brands aren't as good as what we normally are used to. And then you play Rutgers November 8th, which hint, hint, I'll talk about this in a second. I think we're going to have a good opportunity of winning that game. You play Illinois the next week, November 15th, 23rd ranked Illinois. They're pretty good. They're not unbeatable. That might be where your upset comes from. And then you play Michigan on November 22nd. They're 25th in the nation. Good football team, not great football team. And then you get Michigan State. So you get the 2 Michigan schools back to back. And then Michigan State, another team that has struggled so far this year. And so in these final 5 games for Maryland football, they have an opportunity to make a bowl game. There's an opportunity there to make a bowl game. There's an opportunity there to still get 2 more wins. And I think people will really look at this program differently if we make a bowl game. I think ourselves will look at the program differently. I think that the fans will look at it differently if we're able to get to a bowl game. But if this team only gets 4 wins or 5 wins, I think there's going to be a lot of hard conversations that have to be had. And in terms of retaining players, in terms of keeping players, I think getting to a bowl game could be something that is really could really help this year for Maryland football and the trajectory of this thing. But when you look at Rutgers football this year, they're not very good. Rutgers football hasn't won a bowl game, and this is where I say the goals are still out in front of you. You play them on the road on November 8th. But I'd say right now, so far, what we put on paper compared to what Rutgers has put on paper, I think we've shown we're the better team. I do. If you look at what they've done and who they've played, they beat Ohio early on the season only by 3. They played Iowa September 19th, lost by 10 points against Iowa. They played Rutgers the next week, or excuse me, Minnesota. Rutgers played Minnesota, lost by 3. They played Washington, a game where Maryland kept it close and was up 20-0, so more than close, very close. They ended up losing that game 19-38. They got blown out by Oregon, which is to be expected. So if you look at this Rutgers team right now, that's an absolutely winnable game. They don't look that great this year. I don't think there's any any part of the Rutgers team that you look at and you're like, yeah, these guys are really scary, or these guys, we really don't want to go against these guys. I think they're fine. I think they have some decent players, but you can't tell me that ain't a winnable game, or a game that Maryland might be favored in, or a winnable game for the Terps. I think it absolutely is. And so you could easily get a win there. And then another team that has been quite terrible so far this season is Michigan State football. They've been bad. They've been bad. I think they've continued to I think their program has high expectations, but they've honestly continued to get worse. And last week against Indiana, they got blown out. Obviously, Indiana's really good. They got blown out by UCLA 38-13, a team that we just had a back and forth close battle to. And I think UCLA's good, but I don't think they should be blowing anybody out. If you're a good football team, they lost to Nebraska by 11 points, 38-27. They lost to USC 45-31. So their defense is just giving up a lot of points. They won an OT game against BC, who ain't that good this year, 42-40. So their defense is just one of the worst groups in the Big Ten, if not the worst group. And those are two games that you can absolutely win to get to a bowl game. Now, winning both of them, I can't promise is going to be the easiest thing in the world, or be easy for Maryland football to do. I don't know if that's necessarily a likely outcome, but I do think it's something that is really possible in two games that I think Maryland football should win. So when you look at the schedule, you're like, okay, you still have the opportunity to make a bowl game. And with the youth of this team, with the freshman quarterback, and how hard the Big Ten is, if you get to 6-6, I think Mike Locksley might be back. I do. I think you look at it and you're like, okay, we have all these recruits. We have all these good players. We have the number one recruit in the nation coming in next year. We kind of just have to let it go, because starting over is going to take us back way more than the potential of next year's team. And then next year, it could be like a huge season for Maryland football where we could have everything out there. But I think also another goal this year was to upset somebody, to beat somebody of quality. Like Wisconsin ain't that. To beat a Big Ten opponent of some quality. And we had an opportunity to do that against Washington and Nebraska. And even UCLA today looks like a pretty good win. But now your options are getting slimmer and slimmer and harder and harder. And I don't consider Rutgers or Michigan State like really good Big Ten wins. I think Indiana would be. You have the opportunity to do that this weekend. I think you have the opportunity to keep that game close. Who knows against that Indiana team? I don't want to say they're a little bit fraudulent, but they're a little bit fraudulent. And then Illinois, 23rd in the nation. That's a really good Big Ten win. Same thing with Michigan. So you're going to have an opportunity to take down a really good Big Ten team as well, which I think was kind of the expectation for Maryland football coming into the year. Or not the expectation, but one of our goals that I kind of had for us. I was like, okay, you make a bowl game and then bring someone down that has some meaning. Like last year, the year was terrible. It wasn't a good year, but we were able to bring down USC, and it was a down year for USC. So it's like, does that win kind of count for anything? Does that win really kind of matter? I don't know. It depends on what you look at, who you ask about it, but it is something that definitely matters for Maryland football. So I do think those are two things. Making the bowl game is definitely out there to be had. And I think you look at this program a little bit differently if that can happen. And then I think the next year we're looking at a year that it could be really good for Maryland football. So we'll have to see what happens. But I do think a lot is still out there for Maryland football to be played for. So I don't want to be too negative about this year. I'm still not convinced about Mike Locksley. I still am like, I would prefer to go in a different direction if it meant we could keep a lot of our players, but that's just not how college football works. So we'll see exactly what happens. I'm going to preview a little bit of the Indiana game, give you guys my thoughts. What do I think? My overall takes heading into the game. It is Wednesday. We're getting closer to that. Talk about that next. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton cross training thread, powering by Peloton IQ. It's their most advanced equipment yet, designed to give you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or cross training with your favorite instructors. This is training reimagined. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with tools that help you plan, stay motivated, and reach peak performance. I love how the Peloton IQ system offers real-time strength coaching. It actually tracks your reps, just the right weights, and corrects your form, making every rep safer and smarter. The swivel screen is a game changer. You can go from running on the tread plus to strength training without missing a beat. And the personalized class recommendations keeps you engaged. You get workouts tailored to your vibe and energy level each week. So let yourself run, lift, flex, and push forward. Explore the new Peloton cross training tread plus today at onepeloton.com. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride with more IIHS Top Safety Plus Pick awards than anyone else. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details, and Mazda brings the same attention to how we craft every model. You can feel the Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to the available Napa leather upholstery. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but. From smooth handling to intuitive controls. With all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. So I want to give my overall thoughts on Indiana right now as a football team in Maryland heading into this game against Indiana. So we obviously play the number 2 team in the nation, which is still a little bit weird because I'm just not used to, like, thinking about Indiana as the number 2 team, in the nation. It's just not something that I'm used to kinda saying, but I think when I think of it in terms of Maryland football and, like, what we can do, with this game and the impact that this game can have on our season, I think there's a couple different things that I wanna mention. First, I want to start off with this. I think Indiana's a really good football team. I do. I don't think they're unbeatable for a team like Maryland. I'm not saying we win this game. I'm not saying we run away with this game. I don't think this team is unbeatable, though. And I know they've had some really good games so far this season. I know they've done some really good things last year in terms of making the playoff. And they're kind of the new up and upcoming program. They're doing a lot of really good things. But I just want to make this clear. This isn't like playing your typical number 2 team of the nation, and I might get some backlash for this. This isn't like, oh, last year it's like, oh, the number 2 it's not like a year where it's like, oh, the number 1 team in the nation's Ohio State and the number 2 team in the nation's Alabama and the number 3 team in the nation's Georgia, and all 3 of those teams are just on another level. These are one of those years when anybody can beat anybody. And I think that's kind of what Indiana has shown so far this year. Obviously, they had the big win against Oregon that kind of has gotten them to that number 2 ranking. They've also beaten teams like Illinois. They had a close game against Iowa, only 20-15. They beat Michigan State as well. But I think when you look at Indiana and when you look at this game for Maryland football, I think the Terps are going to have an opportunity to win this game. I do. I'm not saying, I'm not necessarily saying that we win, but I do think there's an opportunity there for Maryland to win, especially being at home. And so I think Indiana's a really good football team, but I don't think they're necessarily as complete as a lot of teams that we've seen. Now, I think their quarterback's really freaking good. I think their quarterback's really good. I think Fernando Mendoza, I think, is arguably the best player right now in the country at QB. And I think Elijah Surratt, the receiver, is also really good. I think those 2 guys are kind of killing it for Indiana. I think those 2 guys are 2 of the best guys in the country in terms of their production and what they do. I think that those 2 guys are playing at an extremely high level. I do think they're a complete football team, but there's a difference between being complete and being like out of this world type of talent. I don't think they I don't think they're out of this world type of talent where it's like if Maryland puts things together, they have no shot at winning. I don't think that's the case. Now, I do look at them like this. I think they're really well coached. I think their coach is one of the better coaches in college football, and they're not going to beat themselves. And they have a good mixture, not They're not going to beat themselves so far this year. They've shown that, but they're also good enough to beat you as well, if you guys know what I mean. And so they do have that kind of like that consistency to them, where so far they've shown up every single game. A little bit of a scare against Iowa, not their best game, but Fernando Mendoza, he's completing 73% of his throws, and he has a ton of passing yards, 21 touchdowns, but he only has 2 interceptions. And that's kind of what I mean right now, is that they're not going to turn over the ball a ton, but they're also can create explosives down the field. I think Roman Hemby is starting to become their dude in the backfield. He's playing at a high level, but they have a couple other guys. And then the receivers, they got 2 guys, Elijah Surratt and Amar Cooper Jr., 2 guys that are just scary. Elijah Surratt, 603 yards on the year, 9 touchdowns. Amar Cooper, 581 yards, 7 touchdowns. The next kid, EJ Williams, only has 212 yards. So those are the 2 dudes that you really have to worry about. I think offensively, they're talented. I think where they're making a lot of their money this year is defense. Defense, they've put together a good year defensively as well. But I just think at home against Maryland, this is a spot for Maryland. Indiana's coming in here thinking they're kind of the stuff, which they very much are, being the number 2 ranked team in the country. Heisman kid, and Fernando Mendoza, a kid that's led their team, really good weapons, a good defense. Their coach is getting a lot of respect across the country. This is a chance. If Mike Locksley's ever going to be a top 5 type of opponent, this is the one. I think this is one of those ones that you look at and you're like, you don't get too many like these. You just don't. Because most of them are just going to have supreme NFL talent that it's just like really hard to match up with. And if Mike Locksley coaches his best game, Maryland will be in the game in the 4th quarter. I do believe that. I think if Mike Locksley coaches his best game. And we haven't seen a ton of that, and there's not a ton of evidence to feel that way, but I'm not saying that necessarily will happen. I'm just saying Maryland has the opportunity to be able to do that. Now, momentum's not running on our side. Things aren't quite going our way. But if you put those things aside, those losses you've taken, put that anger onto the field, and you play the right way, and we get Malik Washington's run game going, this is a game that we can stay in. I do believe that. Like, this isn't a team where it's like, NFL guy. Oh my God, so supremely. Their offensive line pushes us back. Like, their defensive line is going to get some like every single play. I think they're really solid everywhere, but I don't think it's that type of talent where it's like, guys, we really just don't have a chance. I don't think it's that when we play them, and so I do think Maryland has a really good shot of potentially doing this thing and potentially taking down Indiana. I think there's an opportunity there. Now, do I trust Mike Locksley to be able to get the job done late in the game? No, not really. But I think the components are there, and I think we have a couple of pass rushers that can make some key plays. We know Malik Washington can make some plays. So I do think there's an opportunity there for Maryland football to be able to do something with this game. We'll talk more about it over the next couple of days. Let's talk about the top 3 players so far this year for Maryland's offensive side of the ball. Who's been most impressive? We'll talk about that next. College football is back, and I couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's nothing like it. But let's be real. Actually getting tickets can feel like more of a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. That's why I use Gametime, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. The app is made super simple. I can see the exact view from my seat before buying. I love zone deals too. Pick the section and Gametime picks the seats, and you save big. Big. Honestly, it's faster and cheaper and less stressful than any other way I bought tickets. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code Locked on College for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket. Go download the Gametime app today. So I wanted to do this. We're like a little bit more than halfway through this season. I'm going to do this exercise. Who have been our top 3 best players on the offense side of the ball. This is not going to be in any particular order. I think it's a little bit foggy when you go into order. But I want to name the top 5 guys that have been our best players so far this season. And I'll get the obvious one out the way. Malik Washington. I think he's been one of our 3 best guys on the offense side of the ball. He's thrown for 1,716 yards, 11 touchdowns while only having 3 interceptions. And to be honest, I can't ask for much more for a freshman quarterback. I just can't. The way he's playing, the level that he's playing at, the things that he's doing, it's just not what you see every day. And I think the offseason is all about keeping that kid in College Park. If you keep that kid in College Park, I'm sure people will come in. I'm sure people will have the opportunity to play for Maryland football. I'm sure that it'll be a much attractive spot for transfers. I'm sure we'll be looked at as a team that could surprise people next year. And I hate always talking about next year, but that's kind of the deal with this year's team. And Malik Washington's the biggest thing for Maryland football. Now, there's ways for him to get better. I think there's ways for everyone to get better on this Maryland team. But to me right now, he's our number 1 probably offensive player, even though he has been super consistent over the last couple of weeks, even though he's still a freshman. I do think he's been one of our best guys so far for Maryland football, and I can't wait to see what he continues to become. Now, the hardest part is after this. It gets a little bit harder because it's like, dang, I'm going to go with 2 receivers, though. And I think the biggest surprise so far this year to me, besides all the freshman madness and how good some of those guys are playing, it's Shalik Knotts. Biggest surprise so far this year. He leads our team in receiving yards. He leads our team in touchdowns, and it's not necessarily close in receiving touchdowns. He's made himself burst onto the scene and have an opportunity at the next level. I don't know what that looks like, if that's getting picked or if that's in someone's camp. He's given himself an opportunity, if he continues to do this, to maybe make this into something that he can live off of for the rest of his life based off of this year. Because the past years, we knew he was talented, and this has always happened for Maryland football. There's always some receiver that takes that jump, and it's been Shalik Knotts. We expected it to be Jalil Farouk to be our guy and Octavian Smith. And I can't say Octavian Smith has a bad year. He could very well be the next guy on this list. But I think what Shalik Knotts has done has been really impressive for Maryland football. 26 receptions, 421 yards, 5 touchdowns. Shalik Knotts is just on another level right now. Has a chance to be an all Big Ten type of guy. He's playing at a really high level. The next guy on my list, I think, is Octavian Smith. I think Octavian Smith is our best pure receiver, most explosive guy. I know Shalik I just hyped up. I think Octavian Smith is weird in this situation. He's a little bit hard to gauge because some games I feel like this guy's one of the better receivers in the Big Ten, and other games I'm like, where is Octavian Smith? Like, I think that we go back and forth with Octavian Smith. Now, there's plenty of guys on this team that just haven't had a great year in terms of the run game, especially. Like, usually when you think of your top 3 players on your offense, and I didn't really consider the offensive line too much in this, you want one of your running backs to be in it. But when you look at it, DeJuan Williams, 292 yards so far. Nolan Ray, 196 yards so far. Both averaging around 3.5 yards per carry. Both only have 2 touchdowns. Like that's not the part of our team that's good right now. And so Octavian Smith, 27 receptions, 378 yards, no touchdowns, has created a bunch of plays down the field, has been a really good safety blanket for Malik Washington, as he is second on our team in receptions. Jalil Farouk's actually number 1. But I think going into the year, I think this is kind of what I expected from Octavian Smith in this type of year. I expected a jump from him, and he has made a jump. I don't know how much of a jump I thought he would make, but this is kind of where I see him, and this is kind of what I see for Octavian Smith. So those are my top 3 so far this year. But that's all we have for today. Thank you guys for listening to Locked on Terps. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. We're here every day talking Maryland football and basketball, so thank you guys for listening to Locked on Terps.